What's up, Daddy's Game Time? This is Patrick Seitz, voice of Frankie from One Piece. Play some video games already. Because I'm gonna. Someday. Not today. But soon. Yeah.
Hello everybody, I'm Leo from daddysgametime.com, and it's my honor to present to you Mr. Patrick Seitz.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Patrick? How you doing today?
Doing good. Doing good. So far, so good. How about you?
Oh, doing well, thank you. A little tired from running around everywhere, but
That's fair.
We're doing great. I think if I heard right earlier today at the presentation, this is your first time here at Fanime Convention, right?
Yeah. Never been up here. I'm used to, hearing about my friends coming here. They're always online going, oh my God, I'm not done with my cosplay yet. Got 2 days, 1 day, 12 hours, here we go. So I feel like I've gone indirectly just from watching people talk about it on social media, but this is my first time actually on site.
That's great. You know what? This is our first time as well. So
nice.
We're just kind of experiencing this together as we go. That's awesome.
It's always nice being in one where I'm not changing time zones too.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's the ones where you go all the way to the East Coast get a little tough because you're like, it's 5 p.m. in my brain, but it's really 8 p.m. here. So
yeah, you get some of that jet lag, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, so tell us, what are you working on right now?
Oh man, right now, this is the eternal voice actor struggle, the stuff that I'm working on right now that I can actually talk about. What can I talk about right now? Ooh, well, I guess the big one that I can talk about right now would be they made a Blaze Blue 12-episode series to complement the games. So I was able to write the scripts on that and direct the English dub for that, and reprise my role as Ragna. So that's coming out next month, I think late next month, late June. So looking forward to that, and that's coming out soon. That's something I can actually talk about. So and I got stuff that I can't talk about yet that's killing me because I want to, but I can't.
If I can ask, is it video game related also? Is there something in there?
Video game related, definitely some stuff I want to talk about in there, and some anime too. It's so tough because by the time stuff comes out, or we've been given the green light to talk about it, we worked on it like, 8, 9 months back, a year ago, a year and a half ago sometimes. So we're still into it. We're still jazzed about it. We're like, oh yeah, the thing we did back then, like it's out now, it's cool. Whereas if you talked to us right as we were working out, we'd be like, it's the coolest thing ever! I want to tell the world! So, it's tough. Some actors aren't good at keeping it to themselves. Every now and then they tweet about it and they get busted, but I wait till it's out. I wait till something is out on the shelves and I hear myself. Because you don't want to be like, I play so-and-so in this thing, and then find out you get recast. Like that's awkward. So I just play it safe.
Have you ever been talked to about something that slipped out of your tongue?
No, I mean I've had companies like preemptively be like, just to remind you guys, don't talk about the thing because it hasn't been announced yet. But it's always been like to the group. Like I've never spilled the beans on something early because that's not how I roll.
That's right. So we understand there's not a particular project you can speak about. Mm-hmm. Can you speak about which companies you're working with?
Oh.
If you can't, that's okay. Don't
that
feel...
would, you know what, I'm going to avoid that one just because that would probably inadvertently give stuff away. See, that's the problem now. It used to be, I feel like there was a time when you could give really vague hints about a thing you're working on and people wouldn't figure it out. But now, when people do that, somebody figures out immediately because it's you versus the entire internet. You know what I mean? You think you're clever, and maybe you are, but you're not cleverer than the entire internet. Somebody will figure it out. They'll be like, oh my God, he's working on so-and-so. This is great. And then you're like, didn't think you guys were going to figure it out. This is awkward. So I better not. Actually, one thing I can talk about, nope, I'm playing safe. I'm playing safe. Just to be safe, I'm not gonna. But no, I've got some definitely cool stuff in the next couple months that I really want to talk about, but I can't.
To be continued, folks. That's great. That's great. As you can see, Daddy's Game Time, daddy-related content, stuff that's up to date. We're just trying to keep up, with what's going on in gaming and pop culture, anime. the whole deal.
Nice.
Are you a father yourself?
No, no. I have great admiration for people that are. I can barely keep myself alive. I'm still working on house plants. The thought of keeping another human being alive is very, very daunting to me. Especially with my work schedule being so weird all the time. I mean, it's never the same from day to day or week to week. It'll be this week there's nothing, and this week there's a bunch, and today you're working until 10 at night, and tomorrow you start at 7. This is the day when you go to Texas, then you come back from Texas, and then you go to San Jose to work on something. And I'm not complaining, but it is, I think I would start with a cat and sort of work my way up to an actual sentient human being. I feel like the experience that I'm having, that I'm sharing with the fathers I know, is them being like, there's no time to play video games. How do I fit it in? And I feel like over the last year and a half or 2 years, I've hit that mark of, I really want to play such and such. I don't know what I'm going to get to. I'm going to play it in tiny little chunks, because that's the days of marathon gaming are, they're over. Those days are gone. But yeah, no, no kids yet.
That's right. Yeah. Word of warning here to all the daddies out there, or soon-to-be daddies out there. It's very tough to keep your gaming lifestyle when you have a baby that needs your attention as well. So, but growing up, how was your family life and dealing with your likes?
It was, well, one thing I feel like I should probably mention, I was always a gamer, like always. I remember age 3, my dad coming home with the Atari 2600 and me just being like, what is this madness? You know, playing Pac-Man and Centipede and Mr. Dew's Castle and all these really old games, and just thinking there's nothing like this. My brain can't handle it. I actually feel kind of bad, because, you know, growing up with the Atari, the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, the whole thing, I feel like games got more and more intricate, more and more complicated, more and more compelling, but it happened sort of on track as I was aging and able to deal with it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a kid right now, 10, 11, 12, who's trying to tear himself away from this stunning world, this open sandbox game. I mean, that's tough, you know what I mean? I feel like it was a lot easier back in the day to be like, well, I'm playing Castlevania. Now I'm going to go outside, I'm going to read a book, because Castlevania is cool, but it's a different, the games that kids are up against these days are so compelling and so complicated and so photorealistic. It seems like it'd be a really easy thing to suddenly be like, wow, I'm playing entirely too much. You know what I mean? When I hear parents talk about, man, all my kid wants to do is play video games, I get it, because the games are so top notch, and so, you know, millions upon millions of dollars being put into them, a year and a half, you know, development time, 5 studios around the world. Like, it's kind of tough. How does a book compete against Assassin's Creed, Black Flag for a kid? That's a tough matchup.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a tough sell right there.
It is. I'm glad that when I was growing up, I didn't have to face off against games that were so compelling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. The games can be addicting sometimes.
It's tough. I hear about kids are just playing, you know, Call of Duty all the time. Like all they're doing is playing Call of Duty, and you look at it, you're like, look at this thing. It's like a movie. Of course they're playing Call of Duty all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're very immersive.
Very immersive. It's tough. It's a tough balance to strike, I think.
Now, I understand you've done some voice work for Call of Duty, is this right?
Little tiny.
Yeah, like background voices?
Just
or?
Background dudes. I think in one of them I was a security guard. Either, this will tell you how much I knew about what was going on. I was either a security guard in a mall or on a cruise ship, which are very different things. Like, you're like, how do you not know which is which? But a lot of times, especially with the video games, you go in there, they've got all the lines on a page, just your lines, just
Maybe
your one-off lines.
Nowadays, it could do a lot with a sound sample, you know?
Could be a mall on a ship. But yeah, especially with the games when you're playing just an incidental character, you know, there's not character art. They're not spending time saying, okay, let me tell you about the whole breakdown of the story. You're just in. Here's the guy you are. Is he young? Is he old? Is he big? Is he little? What do you want the voice? Here's the page of lines. boom, 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 and you're done. Whereas with anime, you know, they're setting up the character, you're watching the scene, you're previewing the line, you record one, they look at it, they scoot it around. Oh, we need one more, a little angry, a little happier, take a little more time on the back end. It's a lot easier with anime to know what's going on story-wise and with your character, even if you're playing just a tiny little incidental character. With video games, sometimes it really is just abstract, boom, 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 boom. Not always. I mean, it really depends on the project and how big your part is and how the scheduling is going. I mean, if they're running right down to the wire on something and your character only has 10 lines, they're not going to spend 20 minutes being like, let me tell you about every little story plot line. They're going to be like, you're a soldier, you die, go. And that's pretty much it. Which is my long-winded way of saying I've been in Call of Duty the tiniest, teeniest little bit. Yeah. I used to play a little bit. It wasn't very good.
A while back, I listened to an interview you did where you mentioned how you like playing the crazier characters. Specifically, you mentioned a character that has like what is it, like a chest, like a freezer chest in his chest, and he runs off of like soda or fountain drinks.
They give him cola to recharge him when he's running low. They just open up the fridge, throw in a couple bottles, and he's good to go.
Now, at the time of that interview, I understand that was one of your favorite characters you played. How about since then? Who has been one of your favorites?
Oh man, he's still a favorite. Don't get me wrong. That's not changing. As far as more recent favorites that I can talk about, there's one I really want to talk about, but I can't yet. He's going to be a favorite once I can finally get the green light to talk about him. I've been lucky overall. I mean, I do a lot of character sort of roles, you know, the zany stuff, the big stuff, the monstery stuff. You know, Garrosh from World of Warcraft, Frankie from One Piece. You know, Agni in Germany from Black Butler and Hetalia, and it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're the 15-year-old young heroic lead in a video game, that's going to be way more hours of work than being, you know, the villain who comes in at the end and yells some stuff. But I like the stuff I play. They're all interesting. You know what I mean? They're never just a generic bad guy. Sometimes you can get generic heroes, but the bad guys are usually not generic because you have to care enough to want to stop whatever evil plan they're hatching.
That's right.
So I've been lucky. I feel like the last couple of years especially, I've sort of fallen into this niche of monsters and yelling and zombies and beastie stuff, gibberish, because I got to be one of the creative character voices for Sims 4.
Oh.
So I joke about it. I'm like, man, if you give me words or verbs or full sentences, it's not going to go very well. But anything short of that, if I'm just yelling and screaming and roaring and gnashing my teeth and moaning like a zombie, I'm your guy. So
now you're talking about the zany characters, the larger-than-life characters. Have you ever done a more, let's say, a quote-unquote serious character where?
I have, although it's usually.
How was that experience?
That was fun. I mean, it was fun. It was. I worked on this one show back in the day where this guy falls in love with this girl. He's just sort of, he's between relationships, doesn't like his job, late 20s, just kind of emotionally, just, you know, going through the paces each day. Meets this girl, falls for her, and then finds out it's his long lost sister, which the immediate response is like, whoa, but it's the show treats it like a Greek tragedy of him being like, this is not kosher, this is not cool, I got to avoid this. And the more steps he goes through to try and distance himself, the more fate or life or whatever you want to call it just sort of kicks him in the teeth, and he gets ensnared in his own machinations. But something like that with you know, the premise being so sort of like, whoa, we took our time. It was an anime title. We took our time with it, and we treated it like theater. You know, we talked about the scene, talked about where it was going, took however many takes we had to really, you know, nail the scene the way we wanted, and it was awesome. And I can do characters like that. It's just with voiceover and with on screen too. I mean, all of us. Like, here's the spectrum of what any one of us can do. And maybe some of the spectrum's a little smaller or a little wider, but there's a bunch of stuff we can do. Like, very, very few of us are just one-note actors. But they figure out what you're good at and they go with that. You know, could I be someone serious? Yeah. Could I do something a little higher in my voice? Yeah. But they're not going to hire me for that. They're going to get me to be some low guy that yells and roars and is crazy, because that's just what comes naturally to me, falling off a log. You know what I mean? They're not going to go for the thing that you could do, but it's not your wheelhouse. They're going to go for the thing that is just the easiest first thing for you, because no one wants to take the time to take a chance, because maybe they'll be like, hey, let's have you do something you haven't really done before, and maybe it goes great, but maybe it goes horribly, and if it goes horribly, they've spent the money paying the actor, paying the engineer, paying the studio, you know, they've blown all that cash and they still don't have something they can use. So when people are like, oh, it's so-and-so in that thing again, playing that part like they played before, and people roll their eyes about casting in projects being too safe, and I do it too. Sometimes I'll look at a cast list, I'll be like, oh, surprise, it's so-and-so. But there's a reason the clients do that. It's because it's the safe, sure thing.
Right.
And from where they're coming from, I mean, yeah, they want it to be good, they want it to be artistic, and they want to meet those creative goals, but just on a dollars and cents level, they're like, we have a finite amount of time, we got a finite budget, we know this fool can do this, so we're going with him.
So what's your acting method like? I know there's certain people that can turn it on and off immediately. There's other people that have to immerse themselves in the character and be that character throughout the duration of the voiceover session.
I'm more just turning it on and off, which I know some people are like, oh, it's not as honest or organic, and maybe it's not, but especially for voiceover. I mean, if you're doing a play, you're getting a lot of time to rehearse, you're getting time with the other actors, you're getting time with the director, you got time to sort of ruminate over the themes and the character beats you want to hit, and you can sort of, you know, luxuriate in it, for lack of a better term. With voiceover, you're going in and, you know, 95 times out of 100, you haven't seen the script before. Sometimes the script is warm because they just printed it out, because they just finished it. So it's a cold read. You're not having time to talk about, you're not having time ahead of time to look at stuff, figure out the character. Now, when you go into the session, you'll talk about that stuff. But again, if you've got a 4-hour session, you'll spend maybe the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, if even that much, setting up the characterization. It's usually just, you're a voiceover actor, you've done this before, here's what's going on with this guy, and go. And as you go, they'll make adjustments, and you know, the longer you go into that session, or the more sessions you spend with the character, there'll be times when you're working on something, they'll say for any given line, okay, give me 2 takes, give me an A take and a B take, we'll pick the one we like, or we'll ask for something different, you do it. You know, maybe an hour into the session, half an hour into the session, they say, okay, let's just do an A take. You get the character, you get what's going on, so just give me 1 take of everything, unless we need another one, we'll ask you. And then you pick up speed, you start going down the page. But a lot of times it's just, here are your lines on the page. Sometimes it's just your half of the conversation. Now sometimes they've got everybody's lines and you can see what you're playing off of, but a lot of times you don't. And sometimes sometimes the director will be gracious enough to read you in with the other person's dialogue, or they'll have already recorded the other person and they can cue up their lines, but a lot of times they haven't, or they can't take the time to do that. And it's just, it's instinct. It's them either knowing you can do that character from something you've done before, or them liking your audition, and you get the character on some level. And yeah, they're going to have tweaks and things they want to like develop and work with, but just off of knowing your work or what you did in the audition, they can already tell, okay, he gets it. Like, we're not going to have to do a ton of adjusting. He's not going off in a totally wrong direction. Because if you're going off in a totally wrong direction in the audition, they're just not even going to use you in the first place.
That's right.
And that's the tough thing too, because when you audition for these, you're doing it at home or you're doing it at your agent's office, you're usually not getting a chance to audition for the director or for the client. Because if you were, you could do your read and they could say, oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, change this, that was kind of off the mark, but I liked that. And then you give them another read and you nail it. Whereas most of the time you're just doing it remotely, doing it at home, doing it at the agent's booth, you do your 1 read, and that's it. And maybe if you'd gotten the feedback, you could tweak it to make it how the client wants, but you don't.
Right.
So they're just getting like 800 people's best guess.
Oh, wow.
And then they listen through and they go like, okay, 770 of these aren't right. Some of them are kind of right, some of them are just off by a country mile. And then they'll break it down to like, okay, I like 30 of these people, let's bring back 15 of them and hear them again, and then we'll give one of them apart. I mean, those are the numbers you're up against for this stuff. It's unreal. You're going up against hundreds and hundreds of people.
Now, I understand you've tried some producing and writing. Is that right?
I do a lot of writing.
Tell us about that process. I've been very curious into getting into some possible writing myself. I had a lot of ideas, and I've actually written a few scripts in my life, but
Very nice.
I want to know what's Mr. Patrick Seitz's process to producing and writing. What do you have that you've worked on, that you want to work on, perhaps? Maybe themes, if you want to share with us, of something that's going on in that brain of yours.
I mean, I got my undergraduate degree in creative writing and fiction, and I got an MFA in screenwriting. I've got a couple passion projects on the back burner that I've been not paying enough attention to, only because I've been busy writing and doing script adaptation for animated video games, which is great. I mean, it's a very first world problem to have. I'm too busy getting paid to work on writing, to do my own writing.
First world problems.
You know, but it's, the anime especially has been keeping me really busy for these last 5-6 years, doing, you know, just anime episodes or like full-length movies like Wolf Children and Summer Wars, King of Thorn. It's a weird process because you get the video, you get the QuickTime file of the episode or the movie, whatever it is, and then you get a translation, and then it's basically you just watching the episode or movie, whatever it is, line by line, just looping the lines over and over again, looking at the translation, looking at the lip flap, and then trying to come up with something that not only fits the lip flap, but is true to the character and true to the story and sounds good in English. And that's where it gets, I don't know how it ever actually works, but it does, because I do it week after week, day after day. But when you think about it on a concept, like how is this ever going to, because you're just sitting there looking at the script, looking at the movie, it's rolling, you're looking at it, you're mumbling the words to yourself, and you somehow, it's like glass blowing. You look at people doing glass blowing, you've got this molten glob of glass on the end of a tube, and they're like blowing it into different shapes, and you see them doing it, it's actually happening. Like, you know that it's a thing, but you're like, how does that even, this shouldn't be possible. But it is, because it's happening. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about the script adaptation. The producing, only a little bit. I mean, that with, I guess the most salient example would be with Blaze Blue, because it's a Funimation title and they're down in Texas. But then I pitched it to them in terms of, hey, if we record it out in LA, we can keep the cast from the video games, which will be of a benefit to the final product, because I think the people that are going to buy this series are fans of the games, and by and large, I don't think they're going to want to hear a whole new cast of these characters they've already spent, you know, yay many games with. And so that was a little bit different experience than what I usually do, because usually I'm just directing or just writing or just acting, but I'm not the one bringing together the elements of like, okay, this studio and calling the actors and doing this. So it was a little more organization to it than I'm used to having to tackle. But it was good. It was fun. I mean, we got through. I was happy with the final product, and looking forward to hearing that next.
That's great.
Next month.
Well, Patrick, we're limited on time, but I did want to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
Pixar. How did you get started with Pixar?
That just, that was luck of the draw. Somebody recommended me to somebody that was doing a looping group, and they brought me in for, it was a day or a day and a half on Monsters University. And it was, it's funny because we covered, you know, so much of the movie with the crowd scenes, the outdoor stuff, and the parties. And then in that particular one, when I watched the final product, you almost couldn't hear the background stuff because they had mixed the music up and the crowd stuff low. But there were a couple moments. I took my mom with me to see the movie, and there were a moment or two where I said that was me, and she's like, oh, yeah, I heard it. So it was nice having her actually get to hear it happen. But that was a really fun experience. Also because you get to see the movie before it's out. I mean,
that's right.
You know, you're not watching it from start to finish, but you see enough of it over the course of the day that you're like, oh, that's really cool. I can't wait to see the final product.
Great. Well, Patrick, we have about 1 minute left, I'd say. Any special shout-outs or promotions you want to give the audience?
I mean, just thank you to you guys for your passion in video games and animation. I share your zeal. The difference is your zeal makes me able to pay my bills and has given me this life that I really enjoy and has introduced me to, you know, people and places I never would have known. So as a fellow gamer, thank you for loving video games as I do.